Well, all good things must come to an end, right? It's a constant rule in life that we see time and time again, and the Golden State Warriors are no exception to that rule as their dynasty finally ends with Klay Thompson deciding to leave the Golden State Warriors to sign a 3-year, $50 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks, a deal that will be facilitated by a sign and trade with Dallas, in which the Dallas Mavericks will send two second-round picks to Golden State, a 2025 second-round pick and a 2031 second-round pick, along with sending Josh Green to the Charlotte Hornets. This deal was agreed upon on Monday and thus ends the Golden State Warriors dynasty, a dynasty that will be remembered forever in the game of basketball. It changed the game of basketball with the exploitation of the three-point shot. I don't want to say that they are directly responsible for the genesis of the way that the game is being played today. I definitely feel as though, you take a look at the 2011 Dallas Mavericks that prioritized ball movement and spacing in order to beat that Miami Heat team in 2011. You take a look at the 2014 Spurs that used, once again, the ball movement and spacing, the pace and space, a lot of what we're seeing in today's game. But at the same time, right, the Golden State Warriors kind of enacted that system and placed it on steroids, if you will, right? They made it work so well primarily because of how good their backcourt was at shooting the basketball, right? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, if you will, two of the best shooters of all time, and in my eyes, definitely the best shooting backcourt of all time, right? The Warriors dynasty had accomplished so much, right? Winning 4 championships in the span of 8 years is nothing to be sneezed at. Winning 73 games, even though they ended up losing that finals, right? Winning 73 games, beating the Chicago Bulls' record of 72 wins in a season is something also not to be sneezed at. They accomplished a lot and have nothing to be ashamed of when they look back on their time together. Now, obviously, Draymond Green and Steph Curry are still there, but Klay Thompson decides to go to Dallas once again on a 3-year, $50 million deal. This reported by Woj and Shams. And we're going to pivot here and kind of take a look at what this means for the Dallas Mavericks going forward into the 2024-2025 campaign. So the 2023-2024 Dallas Mavericks, let's be completely honest here, overachieved in this first full season of the Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic experiment, finishing as the 5th seed in the Western Conference and making it all the way to the NBA Finals before ultimately losing to Boston in 5 games. And when I take a look at this from a fit perspective, this is almost a fit made in heaven, right? Dallas, specifically as it pertains to the finals, when you take a look at how they shot on open/wide open threes using the NBA tracking data on NBA.com, shot a combined 41 of 135 from the three-point line, which is almost about a little over 30% on wide open threes. Not going to cut it against a team of Boston's caliber, which is clearly not going anywhere here in future seasons. Like I said in earlier videos, that Boston rotation is locked up at least for the next 3 or 4 years. So the key guys in that rotation, the Derek Whites of the world, the Drew Holidays of the world, the Jason Tatums and Jaylen Browns, along with the Kristaps Porzingis, seem to be here to stay for Boston going forward. So if you're Dallas, you need to lay down a blueprint of attempting to beat them going forward. And I do think this is a good first step, but it doesn't cure all. Right now, let's take a look at why I definitely believe this works for Dallas, right? You have a guy in Klay Thompson who can knock down the three-point shot at a very, very efficient clip. Shot 39% from 3 this past regular season and averaged 18 points a game. In addition to that, Klay Thompson, one of the premier three-point shooters in the history of the game, and you take him and you place him on a team with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, a Dallas Mavericks team that, get this statistic, I suppose, is courtesy of Landon Thomas on Twitter. Shout out to him. The Dallas Mavericks had the second most open three-point attempts last season, only trailed the defending champion Boston Celtics, and ranked 17th in three-point percentage in those open three-point shots. After the trade deadline, they ranked 11th, shooting 35.5% on those open threes. Klay Thompson this last season, right, shot 39.2% on open threes, and this would certainly serve as a significant upgrade to one Tim Hardaway Jr., who shot 31.7% on open threes for Dallas last season. Tim Hardaway Jr. was traded to the Detroit Pistons from Dallas shortly before this trade, or about a week or two before this sign and trade was announced for Dallas. So overall, like I said earlier, I really like this fit for Dallas. Klay Thompson, a guy that can knock down the open three, a guy that you can't really help off of too much defensively. So, Kyrie and Luka already attract so much attention when they're on the court together. So think of it from this perspective. You have a guy in Klay Thompson who can be kind of, planted in the corner, or kind of just relocate depending on how the offense flows with Luka and Kyrie. And if you have a defender that you can't help off of with them because of the fact that Klay Thompson himself is still a very good three-point shooter. Look, say what you want about Klay. He definitely has lost a step or two defensively. He's not as good as he was defensively. And it's definitely something I'm going to address here in a little bit regarding Dallas's defense and how it affects that aspect of their team. But when you look at what Klay Thompson can bring, specifically what he did in the second half of the season, one of the things that I always look at are trends, right? How do you look as the season ends? Were you progressing in the right direction? Were you trending upward, or were you trending downward? Klay Thompson, after the All-Star break, shot 41.2% from three and 45.4% from the field on 9 attempts from the three-point line. So his three-point percentage steadily improved over the course of the year. Remember, he had the whole kind of, I don't want to call it controversy, but he wasn't the biggest fan of being moved to the bench. So this new role in Dallas, having a little bit less expectation of being the Klay Thompson of what he used to be, and being the new version of Klay Thompson, whatever that may or may not look like this upcoming season, is definitely something to keep our eyes on as well. Now, this isn't just beneficial from the Klay Thompson perspective, to where it takes a lot of the pressure off him offensively to do as much as he may or may not have been doing in Golden State. He's good at moving off the ball, and on top of that, he'll just be asked to make the open three, or even the occasional pump fake drive, mid-range pull-up from time to time, and I definitely think that's going to be a place where he excels. But it's also beneficial from a Dallas Mavericks perspective to this degree. Luka and Kyrie, like I said, helping off of Klay Thompson isn't an option, which creates in turn more space for either Kyrie or Luka to operate. So giving them a third shooter that is someone that you can trust to knock down the open three takes more pressure off of Kyrie and Luka as well. So from a spacing perspective, from a fit perspective, getting Klay Thompson offensively, it definitely is something that will help Dallas. Now, taking a look defensively, because to me, this is where what really matters for Dallas as far as trying to compete or put themselves on the same level as Boston. When I take a look at it from a defensive perspective, I have a lot of concerns. Definitely do. Kyrie himself is not a great defender. He played pretty solid defensively last season, especially in the postseason as it continued on and on and on. He played pretty well defensively. Luka was exposed to a degree in that finals. I definitely think Boston exploited him as much as they possibly could. And then you take a look at Klay Thompson, like I said, not a great defensive player for Golden State a year ago, and I definitely have my concerns about whether or not having those three on the court at the same time together defensively will cause problems. But the fit is there offensively. I like what it could possibly look like, and I trust Jason Kidd will find a way to make that offense hum going forward. But as far as does this put them in a position to challenge Boston and be a little bit more competitive than they were in this year's finals, that remains to be seen. I'm still pretty skeptical based off what was seen in this past year's finals. Will Kyrie actually show up if they were to rematch against Boston in the finals? And then the concerns are still there defensively. Will Luka rise to the challenge? I don't think they've really, close the gap too much between themselves and the Celtics, but I do definitely think that this is an improvement on so many levels, and it might put them in a position to separate themselves from the rest of the Western Conference. So I do like that from a fit perspective of maybe gaining a stronger foothold in the Western Conference altogether, right? But I mean, the West is a mad scramble, right? OKC is still very much a relevant team. Minnesota will do nothing but get better, and Denver is Denver, even though I'm starting to be a little concerned about Denver with how much they're losing. You know, losing Bruce Brown a year ago and now you losing KCP to Orlando this past offseason are definitely areas for concern for me. But those four teams in the West are still definitely relevant, still going to be jostling for position. And then you have the up-and-comers / teams that, you know, were injured last year, like the Memphis Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans, depending on Zion's health. So I definitely think Dallas distanced themselves from that second tier of contender. But at the same time, I do think as being the defending Western Conference champions, they hold that right in my eyes of being still the best team in the West and getting better. So I definitely think this helps them. Does it help them beat Boston? Like I said before, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced of that to this point. I definitely think Boston is, like I said in the last video, they're kings of the hill. And until someone knocks them off and proves that they can knock them off, I'm going to continue to maintain that they have that superiority over the rest of the league. And like, you know, you always bring them up because that's the standard. That's who you want to beat. So the way I look at it, I definitely think this is a value add for Dallas. I definitely think that they are a better team because of this acquisition. And I'm curious to see just by how much going forward in this season. But that'll do it for this edition of Inside the Lines. Let me know what you think of them acquiring Klay Thompson from Golden State. Do you think that puts them in finals contention? Do you think it makes them the favorite out in the West and the favorite to win the championship? Let me know in the comment section below, and we will see you next time. But until next time, we hope you keep it inside the lines.